Hi again, it's Mr. Granados with Mastering the Language Arts, my blog, where I share some of my beliefs about education, about educating people in the language arts, and hopefully helping people become better masters of the language arts as I try to become a better master of the language arts as well. Now, this video is going to be about diversity and my thoughts on diversity in the teaching environments. Now, to begin, I'd like to talk about my background in school and my background as a budding teacher. To begin with, as I mentioned before, as I mentioned in passing in one of my videos, I grew up going to a Catholic school up through senior year of high school. So all my years in the primary and secondary level, I was in a Catholic school, mostly because the public schools in my area were very violent and not very. Well, my parents didn't want me in them. They feared for my safety if I were to go there. So I went to private school, and one thing that always bothered me as a kid was that there wasn't very much diversity in those schools. They were mostly middle class Anglo-Saxon kids, maybe some German or Irish backgrounds, but all white Americans. And I was usually I was the only Latino student until 8th grade in my grade school. And in my high school, there were very few African American and Latino students in my high school. Even though they did try to make it more inclusive, it was hard because it was a more expensive high school, and we paid very much to go there. And I also earned a lot from my academic merits. And I'm not trying to brag, but there weren't very many of us, and that was something that I struggled with a lot in my youth, being different, very different from everybody else, having different accents than everybody else because of my Spanish background, because I am a Mexican American, but I was never ashamed of being who I was. But it was always very difficult to be who I was among a very homogeneous group of people, a very homogeneous environment. So, well, that followed me up to college. A very homogeneous here too, in the middle of Indiana, and as I learned in my education classes about diversity and about diversity in the curriculum as well, I seem to find words to express the way that I felt as a young person, and how to better the environments of education to accommodate people who might feel, I wouldn't say marginalized, but might feel other in a classroom. So let's talk about the individual experience in the classroom, and then we can go forward into how to incorporate different cultures in the actual curriculum of a class, of a unit, of a year of learning. First off, I went with the immersion program here at Wabash College. I went to Chicago, and I helped teach at a Catholic school named De La Salle Institute. And the De La Salle Institute made it its goal to have students of all types and backgrounds, of different creeds and colors in their school, regardless of income. And there in Chicago, it'll be very hard not to have a diverse class of anything. So it was the first time that I was in a class where I wasn't the only one who had a distinctive accent from everybody else. It was almost very normal because there were so many Latin students, so many Puerto Ricans or Mexican Americans, or Asians, or people of other ethnicities in the classroom. So I was I guess normal, which was unique. So I saw the benefit. I saw how that could happen, and how that in other places that was the norm and not the exception. And I think that is a productive way to form and to be educated. Thinking about that, we read a lot about. We read from John Dewey and his ideas about public education and education being supposed to be it's supposed to be a mirror of society. It should be a mini society almost. That it should reflect how the outside looks. And when I was in Chicago, I saw the reflection of Chicago within the classroom, and I think that's very effective because it allows students to form productive interactions with their peers that can then follow up on in, I guess, their real life. So that, I think, is a benefit of having a diverse classroom. It sets precedent to students' lives to live a better, a more, I guess, unified existence in their communities, and yeah, that's what I saw in Chicago. Now, as far as like integrating different cultures in the curriculum, it's a different animal entirely. But I feel it's equally as important, and it can be done very well. Now, one of the ways we can do this is by separating ourselves, at least partially, at least sometimes, from this idea we have as of a Western canon. Now, I mentioned to you before how I like which authors I like the most. I talked about Salinger and Hemingway and Shakespeare and Fitzgerald in my last video, and how they're, I mean, one thing they all share is that they're all white men, right? But one thing that is good to have in the classroom is to stray from that, to see all different types of literature as worthy of being in the curriculum, so we can expand the borders of our mind and our maps to be better scholars in general, and to encourage our students to think outside of themselves. Now, one of the classes that I had the opportunity to be part of in my student teaching was a world literature class, which read from different Korean literature. It read from Antigone from Greece, Antigone from Greece. It read from Nigeria with Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart, and then went on to Asian American literature and Mexican American literature. And this is a way. This is an example of a curriculum that is all expansive and lets students, as I said in my philosophy statement that you can find on my website, let students expand and question their ideals and to see what they actually believe. What I mean by that is like it's by looking outward into these different cultures, you can look better inward. And in doing that, of course, we're always bettering ourselves as readers and writers. So that's very important. So this has been my take on diversity in the classroom, as a physical classroom, and in the curriculum. Just to paraphrase what I have said, in case you dozed off, I said that I think it's important to have a diverse classroom where everyone feels included and doesn't feel alienated as another. I think that this is important because it shows, it reflects society and allows students to get ready for society. And my second part was about the curriculum, having an all-inclusive curriculum to allow students to value other cultures, and as I put it about a few minutes ago, helping them look outward, to look inward. Of course, always focusing on improving ourselves as readers and writers. Now, thank you. This has been Mr. Granados from Mastering the Language Arts. Thank you for joining me, and I hope that you have learned something today.